In the grand arena of life, every man faces his own unique seasons, times of triumph, struggle, growth, and reflection. Your legacy is forged not just by the challenges you face, but by the quality of your thoughts and actions. Welcome to the Legacy Podcast with Ernest Wood, where we explore the path to true happiness, enduring legacy, and becoming the man you're meant to be.
Hey, thanks you for joining me on the Legacy Podcast. Here's the truth. Most of us are sleepwalking through life. Not because we're lazy, but because the subconscious has it's hijacked us. It's taken over the steering wheel. Today, we're going to expose that. Take it back and start living wide awake. No, not awake like some woke bullshit that you hear on the news and we all are pretty much tired of. But awake as knowing what you're actually doing in life. So again, welcome to the Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Ernest Wood, former Navy guy, current straight shooter, and your legacy coach. So what is subconscious living? I define it as like operating on autopilot, built from repeated habits, stories, and your environment. A lot of this stuff comes from when you were a little kid and it's been programmed into you. So you have certain triggers and patterns, and just that's the way you get through life. The brain is there to help you out, but in some ways it hurts you because it puts everything into easy, made to be easy, right? Like when you first start to learn to ride a bike, it's hard. Like you fall over, you freaking eat your shit. But once you learn to ride the bike, you know how to ride a bike. You go back 10 years later and you can ride a bike because that's in your subconscious, right? So most of us are living our entire days, weeks, years in a subconscious state. I think there's a couple studies done. It's up in the 80s and 90% of our days for an average person is done in the subconscious. And it's why is that important? Well, it's because if you don't like where you're at, you have to start breaking some of those subconscious habits. And it's hard. It's super hard because it takes that work because like I said, our brain is tricking us all the time to be freaking lazy or like to save energy. That's kind of what it likes to do. There's a good saying that good habits are hard to keep but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to keep but hard to live with. And when you think about it, think about like working out. Yeah, we get up, some of us get up every freaking day and work out. We work out. But how easy is it to miss one day and maybe miss 2 days and then you miss a few more days? But then you all of a sudden you look in the mirror and you're like, holy shit, man, I've missed a year. Same thing with like eating. Like I used to be the world's worst snacker. I'm still pretty bad, but not as bad as obviously as I used to be. But my big things were like chocolate and chips. If there were chocolate and chips in the house, they were gone. I even there's a funny story. One of the Christmases I got in my little stocking got the Mounds or Almond Joys. I used to love Almond Joys, and one of my kids ate a freaking one of my Almond Joys. I was pissed because my habit was I came home from work, I went and grabbed my Almond Joy, and I had it every single day. That was an automatic thing that I did. Was it healthy for me? Heck no. Was it my habit? Yes. Did I do it intentionally? Most of the time, not. It was just something that I did. I walked through the door, I grabbed the freaking Almond Joy. Even though as soon as I got off of work, I headed straight to the gym. I worked out for an hour, hour and a half. and then I would come home. So let me ask you, maybe this will sound like your day, because a lot of people are in that same thing. You wake up in the morning, you were told to have breakfast because that's the most important meal of the day. So you have your breakfast, you drive to work, you have lunch, you go back to work, you drive home, you maybe work out in the morning or the evening, you get home, you have dinner, have a beer, have a glass of wine, and then your day is over and you go back to bed. But when you think about before you go to bed, if you were to think about your day and what you did, you couldn't recall most of it, right? And I think too many of us are living in that same situation. And it's bad when you don't, if that situation is not the situation you want to be in, but that's what you're doing every freaking day, how in the fuck is it supposed to change? It can't change, right? If you do the same thing over and over and over and over, it's not going to change. There's no freaking way to change. So I've had some good conversations with people lately, and it's talks about like making yourself uncomfortable or doing little things to know that you're actually awake during the day. That uncomfortable thing could just, at first, it could just be learning like how to breathe, taking that deep breath and taking that moment of time for yourself. Maybe your hard thing is you're going to walk 15,000 steps that day. But that doesn't, that can become like a habit, is all those good things piled up can become habits, just like all the lazy or non-productive things that we do are habits. If your brain knows that, hey, this is what I do, even if it's hard, it makes it where it's going to tell you, hey, I got to do it. I'll give you an example. I've been doing those 300 push-ups 279 days now, I think. Yeah, 279 days now. If I don't do those freaking push-ups, my brain is like going, dude, do the fucking push-ups, do the push-ups, do the push-ups all day long until those push-ups are done, right? So that act of discipline has become such a habit ingrained into my system that when I don't do the push-ups, my brain is like, hey, there's something wrong here. You need to do the push-ups. Same thing with breathing. I've been doing Wim Hof breathing now. I don't know. I haven't missed a day in probably 2 years. And if I get out of the house without doing my Wim Hof breathing, my brain's like, dude, you didn't do something and you know what it is. You need to do the freaking breathing. And and those are like little disciplines I've set up for myself, because before my life was just it it just rolled, and I never knew from at the end of the day what actually I did. I mean, I knew, like I went to the gym, I knew I went to work, but if you asked me a specific part of the day, there was nothing. There was no love for the day, no gain, no structure, no process. And in some ways it's easy. It's easy for us to live like that, but is it the best way to live? Just rolling through your day, 95% of all our actions being just on automatic. What is it called? Let me see here. It's called the habit loop, from Charles Duhigg and James Clear. So we get triggered, we have a thought, there's a feeling, there's a behavior, result, repeat equals the loop. And think about that. How does that, like, we get triggered, right? We'll have, for me, like a big trigger was somebody being late. So if somebody was being late, I automatically thought, man, this son of a bitch is fucking making me wait, right? And started getting pissed. So my feeling was I was getting pissed. My behavior was I got mad and had a poor attitude. My result was I usually ruined whatever time it was I was supposed to have with that person. And it just kept going like that every single time that somebody was late. Same thing when I was driving, right? I'd be driving. My trigger was if somebody was driving slow in the fast lane, my thought was, this guy's a freaking idiot or girl. Most of the time, girl. But, and then I would get pissed. And then my behavior was I would try to cut that person as close as I possibly could. And hopefully they got the point, that they shouldn't be in that lane. But usually the result was I just got around them and made myself pissed off. And then I would do it again. So that was like a couple of my little loops that I did. And I had so many triggers, so many subconscious loops that my day just was a big shit show, honestly. And that's what I figured out. You have to go and know, you have to wake up to what you're doing throughout the day. And that's why, like with my coaching, I have people monitor their stuff for the first week. It's just about doing an assessment, and they need to answer these questions. And then they start monitoring their days, right? So you monitor your day, and all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, well, shit, why did that happen? Why did this happen? Oh, man, I did this day, and this happened. So that is huge, is being able to actually reflect on your day, because what we monitor and what we take care of and measure is what we can actually improve on. And so we monitor it, and then then I go into fixing your breath, sleep, and hydration. So your breath and hydration first, because those are the easiest, cheapest things that you can possibly do to start waking up. So, waking up and doing what you're supposed to do, because you can get into that subconscious living where you never think about your breath. And then all of a sudden you become a mouth breather because you're stressed out all the time. And then you use like 40% more of water. When you mouth breathe, you lose 40% of your hydration faster. And then you become dehydrated, and you don't really think about drinking water or drinking anything else, because you're just constantly working or doing whatever it is. And then you go grab a coffee because the coffee made you feel halfway better. And you drink some more coffee and more coffee. And then you get home and have a beer. So then you look back and you didn't have a glass of water all day. A lot of people, I see them, they have one bottle of water, no cups of water, no water all freaking day at work. And they wonder why they're tired, their skin looks like shit, they're sleeping bad, and their body just doesn't feel good. And why is that? Why did that happen? It's because we were living subconsciously. We got into certain habits. We had all these triggers. We have a behavior that was following along. And that's what it does, man. So you gotta monitor what you're doing. Here's the 5 ways that I think most of society is being controlled right now. Do you wake up reactive? What does that mean? Well, do you wake up and you just grab your phone and you start scrolling? I know, man, I used to be super bad about this, and how I fixed it was I put my phone in a whole different room now. So when I wake up, I have my water bottle right next to me with a pinch of sea salt. I drink that. I do my breathing before I get out of bed. So I have my water, my breathing done. Obviously got to use the restroom. And then I go and start my workout before I even look at my phone. And man, cracking that habit was one of the toughest. And if you can break that, that's just going to be such a big thing in your day, because many of us, first thing in the morning, we grab that phone, and 20, 30 minutes later, you look up and you're like, holy shit, I got to get to work. So now you start rushing everywhere. You're stressed out. And why did you do it? Because you had the habit, right? You went in that little freaking loop. So the first one, waking up, be proactive, don't be reactive. Default to caffeine instead of hydration. Uh, Man, I don't even know how many people, I couldn't even give you the number of people who the first thing they do in the morning is wake up and drink coffee. If that's you, let's try to fix that, because you need to have the water coming in to get that high, you get your metabolism going, you get everything flowing. And if you were sleeping right, you shouldn't need freaking caffeine first thing in the morning. I know many of us aren't sleeping right because we don't go to bed, we don't do all the other shit right. And then here's number 3 is eating crap to numb your emotions. A lot of us, there's a huge portion of people that they don't even know that they're dehydrated, they think they're hungry. And so they'll start eating. That's one of the bad things, right? Or you're kind of grumpy or tired, so you eat more, you eat crappy, and you're pissed off. So maybe you grab a bag of chips and you start eating that. Or you're happy, so then you hang out with a lot of people and you eat more stuff. Like, so many people, their eating habits follow their emotional habits. And a lot of times it's just tied to what you're doing. And why is that? Again, it's just from years of repetitive action, right? And number 4 is lack of movement. Do you have like brain fog? Do you feel like you're just stuck? You're lethargic throughout the day. It's Why is that? Many of us is because we sit around for hours at a time at our desk on our computer, and we don't get any movement. So like our bodies, it's like having a car freaking sit in the garage and never get any lubrication to it, right? And it just sits there and it sits there. And sooner or later it starts to rust up. And then when you very first time you pull it out, you hear the brakes cracking, you hear all kinds of shit. Kind of think of it, does that feel like your freaking knees and your hips when you get up? So the next thing is like limiting that time that you're sitting. Sitting, they talked about it as almost as bad as the new cigarette smoking, right? Because people sit so much, it's causing so many issues. It causes back issues, hip issues, messes with your cardio. It your visceral fat. It's crazy the bad stuff that sitting is doing to us, and it's just making us lazy overall. So those are the 4 or 5 things there that almost everybody is doing. So I have a little mini call to action for you. Rate yourself on 1 to 10 on those. Which one is your worst? Put a comment. And recognizing that is going to help you get better at it. And that's all, like what I was saying earlier. That's why I have people monitor what they're doing, because when you pay attention to it, you can get better. Um, you know, Being a high performer or being a high achiever doesn't have to be loud and spectacular. It can be little subtle things, and these little subtle fundamental changes is just going to keep raising your level, and all of a sudden that level is going to get to a spot where people are like, damn, what is that guy doing different than me? to look like that and act like that and have that energy. Have you met that guy? Have you seen a person like that where you just look at him and you're like, fucking hey, how old is that dude? He's badass. It's amazing to see somebody like that. Or on the other hand, you see that person, you're like, holy shit, what is wrong with that guy? Like, how did he get like that? How does he even function? Right? Which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the one that when people look at you, they're impressed and they can feel your vibrant energy and know that you are the best version of yourself? Or the guy who's just a fucking blob of what you are and what you should be? And I don't mean blob as being, yeah, dude, I do actually mean it. If you're overweight, most of the time it's your fucking fault. You might not like me for it, but it's true. It's going to be your fault most of the time. It's your piss poor habits, it's your piss poor routines. But the good thing is you can fix those. You can fix that shit. What you can't fix, if you have some disease, well, most of the diseases are caused because of our poor habits and choices and different things, right? But if you have a disability, like you don't have a freaking second leg, yeah, you can't fix that shit. But 95% of all the bad crap that's out there right now, we can fix. And we can fix it by not living in our subconscious state, by not doing the same shit that we've always seen or done, not doing the same thing that your parents did and that they passed down to you, and their parents probably passed it down to them, right? So that's what's so important. Like, you have to interrupt those patterns and that subconscious living that you're doing, and then you create new little micro habits. So they say it takes about 67 days to fully ingrain a habit, and I want to say 37 days to break a habit. So you got to make these habits so small at the beginning that you feel silly not doing them, right? If you put that glass right next to your bed, it's kind of hard not to look at that glass and drink that water before you get up. You don't want to make it hard where you have to get up, go downstairs, find the glass, you're tired, it's chilly outside, whatever. You got to get the salt. Have it all set up for you. Have it set up for you, and when you first wake up, that's the first thing you do. Have, like they talk about, like if you want to start jogging, put your shoes, your workout clothes and everything right where your feet are when you get out of bed. Those are all little things that, like, being proactive and making your habit. Now, if you want to have, like, get rid of a bad habit, now you just make it harder for you, right? Say you don't want to eat any more chocolate. Well, you just don't buy any more freaking chocolate and you don't bring any chocolate in the house, because 90% of the time you're probably not going to get up, put on a shirt, put on your pants, put on your shoes, get your car keys, get in the car, get out the garage, go drive all the way to the store just to get that candy bar, come back and eat the candy bar, right? If it's in the house, though, you're going to walk your ass downstairs and grab the candy bar. So that is like one of my biggest things of teaching, like how to create good habits and bad habits. You make good habits super easy where you feel silly not doing them. And then the bad habits, you make it where it's harder to do them. Same thing with the phone. At 6 o'clock, I put my phone on do not disturb and I plug it in a whole different room. And if it's on do not disturb, I don't hear the stupid thing going off. I don't care if somebody calls. And when it's in a different room, I'm most of the time not going to walk my ass in there to look at it. So that's helped me a ton of breaking that habit, right? And here's a huge thing, right? It's accountability. And I had a guy not too long ago, he asked me about my coaching and I was telling him what I do. And he goes, well, why don't I just look that up on Google? I said, well, you could look that up on Google, but you're 50 and you're in that spot that you are now because of the shit that you do. It's not because of the shit you know, because you know not to do most of this stuff, right? And he was like, true. I said, so if you haven't held yourself accountable for all these years and you're in this situation that you don't like, what makes you think that all of a sudden you're going to change it and hold yourself accountable? So he thought about it for a minute and he goes, all right, I totally get what you're saying. So find somebody that holds you accountable to making these changes. It could be your wife, it could be your best friend, or it could be a coach. That's mainly what I do. I make people accountable to their own shit. The one guy that I'm working with now, he checks in every night at 6 o'clock. My other people, they checked in different times, right? They're going to check in every day at a certain time and telling me if they did what they were supposed to do. If they didn't do what they're supposed to do, they better have come up with a dang good reason of what was going on. But 80 to 90% of the time, they checked in and they were like, hey, man, I did fantastic today. You know, I did my eating, did my breathing, did my workout. How easy or how much better do you feel when you're checking in with somebody and you can tell them, hey, I did this, this, and this. I had a freaking great day. Now, when you don't do all that shit, how you're gonna feel like, oh shit, man, I gotta tell this guy, nah, dude, I'm gonna do it right now, right? And that's what changes. That's the big changes in life is being held accountable to making those changes. Um, you're not fixed where you're at. Like your identity isn't fixed, your body shape isn't fixed, your less than stellar attitude isn't a fixed situation. It's all of what you've practiced all the way up until now. So if you want to become happier, healthier, live longer, have a legacy that you're proud of, you got to start taking accountability and living consciously, not subconsciously. You have to know what's going on. You want to set up good habits and build some fantastic routines. The only time, like the 2 times in a day that you have the 2 times in a day that you have like the most control of your life is going to be right before you go to bed and right when you wake up, right? This portion is a shit show. You can control it, as much as you can. I mean, the only thing we're truly in control of is our thoughts and our emotions and how we respond to something. But right before you go to bed, you can set yourself up to have a great night of sleep. You can put your phone away. You can turn your phone off. Make sure you were hydrated during the day. Do a little bit of gratitude journaling. Look back and thank God or thank who you thank for your blessings, and relax and go to sleep. And then in the morning, you wake up, you do your hydration, you breathe, you do some workout, you do, whatever it is to get you going to have the best possible chance to having a great day. So if you can get some good routines at the end of the day, the beginning, at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, it's giving yourself the best chance. So that's where you start like getting rid of that subconscious stuff. And then during the day, it's going to take a little more work because, we start getting busy and shit just starts happening. And then all of a sudden you like, oh shit, where did they go? Right. But let's start with those. Let's get those routines set up. And it's not about like becoming somebody else, right? That was like a really hard point for me to actually learn was, man, I want to be like that guy. I want to have his success. I want to be in his kind of shape. It was more about remembering who I was and that we all have a purpose in life, man. And most of the time, we're not living anywhere close to that purpose in life. We all have we all have big things to do, and you got to believe that. It I'll tell you, coming from like a small town with not having the most money and mom not always being there, dad never around, I thought my purpose was just to get by, because scarcity was one of those things that was my life, man. I was so scared of not having enough to buy food. I was scared, I was scared not to have money in the bank. I was scared if I lose my job, what would I do? And I've learned that there's no like scarcity's it's not real. Our world is abundant, man. We have so many opportunities. And even the worst and the poorest of us that living in America are still in the top 1, 2, 3%, whatever the freaking number is in the world. Yet most of us are pissed off about it and don't have any gratitude. So again, stop living subconsciously, man. If I asked you, you know, what your legacy was, would you kind of mumble it? Or would you stand up and say it proud? Like, it's kind of that eulogy thing that I've talked about before. If you were to pass away, how many people would be at that funeral and what would they say? And I used to think, man, I don't give a shit who's at my funeral. I'm dead. I don't care what they say about me. I'm dead. And in some ways, that's a good way of looking at it, because, we can't live our life for what other people think about us, but we can live our life in such a way that other people have to think about us, right? Because we were that person that put such a positive meaning to your life, a meaning to their life, added value to everybody that you came in touch with. And just being able to even add value to one freaking person and help one person in their life it's life changing, man. I've had a couple people call lately and say, "Hey, thank you for, doing this, what you're doing here." And it's freaking touching, because I always I wrote a book called Asshole to Awesome. Pretty much felt like I was an asshole most of my life. I did some stupid shit. I did some bad stuff all the way around. Not too proud of it, but hey, man, it got to me. It got me to where I'm at now. So, what I need you to do, or what I would love for you to do, is be the best version of you. Be somebody that you can look in the mirror and be happy. You know, be in control of your day. Be in control of the decisions that you make. Don't just get pissed off because this happens and you go into your trigger mode, right? Don't just be lethargic throughout the day, or think that you have to feel like crap all day long, and think that you have to just try to succeed with brain fog and anger and lack of sleep and not being hydrated and don't know how to breathe. All that stuff can be fixed, and it's way easier than you think. So let's do this, man. If you really, like, if this really hit you, or I'll have a link down there, you can take an assessment. We'll set up a call and we can go through the thing and see if we're a good fit for each other. Or, just keep paying attention, keep watching the thing, subscribe, follow. I know I'm not the best, podcaster out there, and like my flow isn't the best, but what I can tell you is I've been in some shitty situations. I've lived a long life and I have never been happier, healthier, and more motivated, more disciplined than I am now. And that has caused me to want to help as many people as I can, because I hate seeing people feel like shit. I can't stand watching somebody barely able to step up on the curb because they're carrying an extra 50, 60, 70 pounds, 150 pounds, whatever the fuck it is. I just want you to live a conscious, happy life. And if you want to join me, please hit subscribe. Please like the video. Throw some comments. I'm glad, we can chat about it over the thing. But if you really feel inspired, hit up the link that I'm going to have in the description. Fill out the assessment. Let's schedule a call. And thank you for tuning in to the Legacy Podcast.